Hello students. So I hope everyone is doing well at their home. So let's begin a very interesting chapter, which is the athlete of the century. So this is a chapter about a very famous footballer, Pele. Games are necessary for our well-being. They increase not only our physical strength but also mental stamina. So now the narrator is saying that games are very important for us and for our well-being because they keep us very active and they give us strength, and it is very important for our body. Games are very important. And this is a chapter about Pele, a footballer who is being known as the athlete of the centuries. So Pele's real name, Edson Arantes do Nascimento, was one of the greatest football player the world has ever seen. He was born in Brazil on 23rd October 1940. His skills at the game was much that when he was at the height of his power between the years of 1956 and 1974. So now the narrator is telling about Pele, who was born in Brazil on 23rd of October, and his skills at the game was such that when he was at the height of his powers between the years of 1956 and 1974, he scored a total of 1,220 goals. So now the narrator is very impressed by Pele, and he is saying that he was one of the greatest footballers of all the times, and he was born in Brazil in 23rd of October 1940, and his skills became very powerful in the year from between 1956 to 1974, when he scored around 1,220 goals. In fact, he has scored an average of 1 goal in every international match he ever played in. Pele played in 4 Brazilian World Cup teams. In 3 of those, his team won the World Cup, that is in the year 1958, 1962 and 1970. So he was very famous and he achieved so much for his country and for himself, and he was the greatest footballer of all time. So now the narrator is telling about a little background that he played in 4 Brazil World Cup teams. In 3 of these, his team won the World Cup, and it is a very great achievement. The most memorable of the games was in 1958 finals against Sweden. So now the narrator is saying the best game that he ever played was against Sweden, where he scored 2 goals to help his country to its 4-2 victory over Sweden. So he got 4 goals and it was a victory over Sweden in which Pele also participated. Pele's career spread over 18 years. The statistics related to him are truly astonishing. So what do we mean by astonishing, students? Astonishing means surprising. It was very surprising to see the statistics related to him are truly surprising. 6 times he has scored 5 goals in a game, which was very impossible, and it surprised the whole media and the audience who was watching, and it made the history. In 30 games, he has managed 4 goals and 3 goals 90 times. In his 17 years, he scored a total of 52 goals, and the following year, he retired from playing first-class football. So, after a while, after becoming Lawrence to his country, to his name, he finally retired after a while. He was idolized. So what do we mean by idolized? So young lovers of football always idolized him, always were fan of him by lovers of the game everywhere. In fact, in 1971, 2 years before he finally retired, he circled the football stadium in Rio de Janeiro at half time during a match against Yugoslavia, waving his number 10 jersey. So he was waving his number 10 jersey against the match he played against Yugoslavia in a stadium in Rio de Janeiro where he was playing a match. So he circled himself and waved his jersey, which was number 10 jersey. Tears streamed down his face as his fans yelled, Pele, Pele, Fika, Fika. So what do we mean by Fika, Fika? It means stay, stay. Everyone is cheering, every audience, every fan of Pele is cheering in that stadium in Rio de Janeiro. The match he was playing against Yugoslavia, everyone in the audience is shouting, Pele, Pele, please stay here. He grew up in poverty. In his childhood, his earliest games of football were with the sock stuffed with paper or a grapefruit on the streets of Sao Paulo, which means when he was young, he was very poor and he never had a football to play with. So what he used to do, he used to stuff his sock with all the papers and he used to use it as a football and play because he couldn't afford a football because he was so poor. On his 6th birthday, someone gave him a leather football. So on his 6th birthday, someone gave him a leather football. When he was 11, the greatest Brazilian footballer, Vladimir de Brito, spotted him. So when he was young, a Brazilian footballer by the name Vladimir de Brito spotted him and invited him to join his football club. 4 years later, he introduced him to the professional club Santos, announcing that this 15-year-old was soon destined to become the greatest football player in the world. So the Brazil footballer who introduced Pele to everyone, he said that Pele is going to be the greatest footballer of all times. Even at the age of 15-year-old, that man saw so much Lawrence and so much talent in Pele, even at the age of 15 years, that he said that he is going to become greatest footballer. A year later, he was the highest scorer in the league and had been selected for Brazilian national team. So he soon got selected for Brazilian national team after a while. After winning the World Cup against Sweden in 1958, Pele became the world's youngest World Cup winner, for he was only 17 when he scored 2 of the 4 goals by which Brazil defeated Sweden, who scored 2. Pele's technique and touch, his dribbling skills and scoring abilities were extraordinary. So now the narrator is saying that after winning so many awards, I can say that for confirm that he was an amazing in his technique and was a very amazing football player. After retiring from Brazil national team, he played for some time for the New York Cosmo Club. So after retiring, he played for some time for the New York Cosmo Club. He went on to play several exhibition games all over the world. After retiring, he also joined certain exhibition game and he also played in them. In countries such as China, Japan, Sweden, Puerto Rico, Bermuda, India and Uganda. In fact, when he played in an exhibition match in Lagos, Nigeria in 1967, a civil war was in process and that country, both sides decided a ceasefire for 48 hours so that everyone could watch him play. It is a very historical incident, students. So what happened when he was playing in Lagos in Nigeria? So at that time, 2 countries were at war. But just because Pele was playing at that time, both the countries agreed that they are not going to fight for some hours. So what do we mean by ceasefire, students? Ceasefire means that 2 countries agreed that they are not going to fight for some hours, they are not going to fire arms and ammunitions, and both the countries wanted their countrymen to see that how amazing Pele is as a footballer. So they both decided and mutually decided to stop a ceasefire and to not have a war for some hours or for some duration, because they wanted everyone could watch him play. In 1977, Pele played for the last time as a professional in an exhibition match. A huge crowd watched as he played the first half of the match with the Cosmos Club. So, the club in which he was a part, so in 1977 played for the last time in an exhibition match, and the second half with his old club, which was Santos. So, in 1977 for the first half, Pele played a match as a representative for the Cosmos Club, and in the second half of the football match, he played for Santos, which was his older team. After his retirement, Pele was appointed Minister of Sports in Brazil in 1995. So, he was appointed the Minister of Sports. He won several international awards and honors too. He was the UN Ambassador for Ecology and Environment and also Ambassador for UNESCO at the Goodwill Games. In 1977, the Queen of England knighted him. President Dr. Nelson Mandela of South Africa conferred upon him the Laurels World Sports Award for Lifetime Achievement in 2000. So, this is the para mentioning about all the awards and designation Pele was appointed in and was given in his later life by even President. So, even President Dr. Nelson Mandela conferred him with the title of Laurels World Sports Award for the Lifetime Achievement Award. In 1919, Pele was named Athlete of the Century by the International Olympic Committee, and in 2000, FIFA called him the Footballer of the Century. So, the biggest organizations, football organizations in the world is giving him the title of Athlete of the Century. Even not just the people who were the fans were calling him the Athlete of the Century, but also the major football organizations in the world. They were also calling him the Athlete of the Century because he was so good at his skills of football. His records of achievement is truly formidable. So, this brings us to the end of the chapter, students. I hope you all enjoyed and learned a lot from the life of Pele. Thank you.